Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Steph and this is Steph Colours, where I talk about all things adult colouring and art supplies. So in today's video, I thought I would try out some of the new products that I recently acquired. I showed most of these in my last video, which was just a quick art supply haul. So I have some things I got from Mont and also some things I previously purchased which I haven't really tried out yet. And also some watercolor paints, and also the distress inks which I showed. So what I'm going to do is I have this copy of Tales from the Witch's Cottage by Hannah Carlson. This was the first copy I bought and I totally destroyed the first page on it, so I ended up buying a second copy. So I've turned this one into a practice book. So that's what I'm going to do today, just try out some techniques on a page or a double page spread, I'm not sure yet. But yeah, I'll probably just do it as a voiceover and we'll see how it turns out at the end. So let's just get straight into it. So this is the first page I'm talking about that I destroyed. Anyway, this is the spread that I have chosen, but I'm probably only going to do the page on the left. Okay, so the first technique I tried was the distress ink using a cloud stencil that I cut out using my Cricut. I watched a tutorial by Karen from My Colourful Country Life, and it was very good, but obviously practicing it yourself is a different story. So I totally forgot everything she said in the tutorial, so I'm just winging it here, really. I don't know whether this background works all that well with trying to use a cloud stencil, but you know, it's a good practice at least. Especially trying to like control the amount of ink on the brush at any given time. Yeah, here, so I decided to use the smaller brush because it's a bit easier to get into the little detailed areas. So this is a bit that I'm about to mess up. Um, yeah, getting the stencil to line up and sort of overlap the clouds at a natural point is definitely a skill I need to develop. You see there, I've overlapped them. You can see the line there, which is not the best, but it's all right. So I quite like how this bit turned out, this little patch of sky here. Somehow I managed to get the stencil to sort of line up nicely and not have any overlapping lines. Still trying to work out the amount of ink that I need to blend out. And I messed up that bit because the stencil moved. So again, something to keep in mind when you're using a stencil. Well, that's it for the distress ink portion of this program. Okay, moving on to the Mont real brush pens, and these are a water-based brush marker. They're actually really quite nice to use. I thought they might be a bit patchy, like some of the other water-based markers I've used. It could just be the thickness of this paper. It's quite forgiving, I guess, for water mediums and water-based markers. Obviously not so much alcohol-based markers, but yeah, I think you can get away with water-based markers with this paper. There was a tiny little bit of bleed through where I was a little heavy-handed, but you can barely notice it. So, but the great thing about these brush markers is they have such a fine brush tip that it's easy to get into the little detailed areas. You still need a bit of control. I did go over the lines in a few places, but that will come with practice, I guess. The good thing about these markers is it really allows you to cover a large area in a short amount of time, which is great when it comes to colouring because, you know, I prefer to use coloured pencil most of the time, and that takes ages, especially trying to fill in background areas. So this would really help speed up the process and provide a nice base for coloured pencil or anything else you want to go over the top with. So now I'm moving on to colouring the hair, and I'm terrible at colouring hair, especially these sort of like trying to get a two-tone sort of effect. No, it just wasn't working for me. But again, practice. I need a lot of practice, especially doing hair and portraits. Okay, so here's, I just got lazy. I just coloured over the bit where it was actually supposed to be the moon. I just went, it's just hair. I'll just blend it all together. So aside from needing a lot more practice using these markers and blending hair colours together, I really quite like how they perform. They cover a large area really quickly and they're really nice to use. So now we're moving on to using the Mont Woodless watercolour pencils. And I have tried only a couple of times to use dough and ink tints in colouring books. And I haven't quite got the knack for it yet. So I thought I'd give it another go with a similar medium, so watercolour pencils. And these ones go down on the paper quite nicely and smoothly, and there's like a rich pigment from what I can tell. So now I'm just using the Pentel water brush to blend it out. And the problem with water brushes is, I don't know, I just can't quite control the flow of water. So I might try using just a regular paintbrush and see how that goes. I am dabbing it on a sponge just to try and remove some of the moisture because I just don't want to really, flood the page with water and create that really crinkly look. Another thing to keep in mind about using watercolor pencils is, I guess it depends on how heavy handed you are with the pigment initially when it's dry, because it will take a lot more water to sort of and scrubbing of the brush to blend it out smoothly. You will get a bit of a grainy sort of effect, which I don't mind. So I didn't really want to go overboard and try and blend out every single bit of pigment, but that is something to keep in mind. Okay, still sticking with water mediums, moved on to the Mont water-soluble oil pastels. These are an interesting sort of medium. I haven't really played with them too much. I did try them out in another Hannah Carlson book, Tales from Atlantis, I think. Yeah, so they work quite well when I tried them in there, just scrubbing it onto a palette. But that's when I realised I'd made a mistake, and I shouldn't have put the oil pastels straight onto the paper, because now it's going to take an awful lot of water to try and scrub out that pigment. So that was a mistake. I will learn from this. So apparently after that, I just decided to hell with it, and I'm just gonna go over the whole page with whatever I have on hand. Apparently, um, but it looks messy now. But I think it kind of turned out okay in the end. Yeah, so here I just scrubbed the black pastel onto the palette and used it just as a straight sort of watercolor, and that works a lot better than putting the pastels straight onto the paper. I mean, that technique might work fine with other art mediums, but in a coloring book, not a great idea. So while I was throwing caution to the wind, I thought I would just try some actual watercolors in this book. And here I am just using the Qor Watercolours, and I think they're by Golden. And I'm just going really heavy on the pigment and just covering everything because clearly I just didn't care anymore. That's not true. It's not that I didn't care, it's just that I thought, it's an experiment, I might as well just go for it. So I actually really like how the watercolor sort of faded the cloud ink stencil into the background a bit. I think it looks really good, and it's probably something I'll try again when I properly do an ink stencil background. I think it just really enhances the moodiness of the sort of nighttime scene. So now I'm using a lot more water and pigment to blend out these white areas. Again, probably not the greatest idea to use this much water in a colouring book, and it's definitely crinkling the paper. But again, it's a practice, and I just want to see what happens, really. So now on to the finishing touches. I just decided to use the Mont acrylic paint pens to go over the outlines of the clouds. This is another simple and really effective technique when done well. It's another one that scares me because I seem to have really wonky control of the lines when I try and do things like this. So I had to go over it a few times just to make it look a bit neater. So then I decided to use the gold acrylic paint pen to go over all the stars. And it's not quite the shade of gold that I was really going for, but it works. It's not too bad. And it's really nice and opaque and covers the black lines quite well. Then I decided to go back in with the white acrylic pen to just add a few more details and for some reason outline the stars. I don't know why I chose to do this, but it is what it is. Then I decided to use the Mont dual tip dot markers to just go over the dots on the page. It's a different shade of gold to the acrylic paint pen, but yeah, it's still nice. Oh, and there's a star that I totally missed. And yeah, these dual tip dot markers have a bullet tip on the other end, so I'm just using that to put in some embellishments as well. Now for the final step of this page, I decided just to go over some of the areas to do some bit of light shading, and I'm using the Mont premium coloured pencils, which I really like, and they do perform really well on this paper too. So I will probably do a proper coloured pencil page using them in this book. That's the only problem with this set of coloured pencils, is I don't think they have very many good skin tones. And I'm also not good at colouring skin tones, so here we end up with a witch who looks very much like an Oompa Loompa. And here I'm also going to try and add some shading to the hair, just to sort of tone down that really harsh blend. But again, it's not great, but it's okay. So here's where I gave up trying to do a skin tone and just went with black tights, easy. And just some last minute shading, and for some strange reason decided to colour her socks purple. I don't know why. I think they look better white, but okay. So I definitely could have spent a lot more time on this page, but I just did it in under an hour, and I thought it turned out not terrible considering I didn't go in with a plan and I just threw everything I had at it. So it was a good learning process, and I learnt some new skills and things to avoid in future. So I think it was worthwhile. And if you ever feel like trying something like this out in a practice book, let me know how it goes. I'd really like to see your results. And until next time, thank you again for watching. Thank you so much for everyone who's liked, commented, and subscribed. And until next time, happy colouring. Bye.